Okay, let's unpack this. What if everything you thought you knew about evil and the devil was, well, a profound misunderstanding rooted in ancient universal wisdom?
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into some truly transformative material. Excerpts from H.P. Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine, specifically Volume 2, Anthropogenesis, Stanza 12, Part 2.
Yes, a really dense section.
It is. And this is an exploration of Blavatsky's challenging and pretty profound interpretations of ancient allegories, which, as you'll soon discover, completely reframes conventional thinking.
And what's fascinating here really is how Blavatsky connects the dots. She draws lines across millennia, across cultures, revealing this coherent philosophical framework behind myths that just seem chaotic on the surface.
Right.
For fellow truth seekers, and those on a theosophical path, this deep dive offers a fresh, really illuminating perspective. It pushes beyond the surface interpretations to uncover a hidden, unifying truth that resonates with ancient wisdom traditions worldwide.
So, if the common narrative about evil is a misunderstanding, what's the core revelation here? What if the serpent, or maybe the dragon, was never actually the villain in these ancient stories?
That's precisely it. Blavatsky argues that the so-called satanic myth is a misinterpretation of much older pagan prototypes.
Okay.
Prototypes where the dragon and serpent were symbols of immense wisdom, you see. Initiation symbols, not symbols of malevolence at all.
So, to really get the Christian myth of Satan, we need to go back further. Trace its origins.
Exactly. We have to trace it back to its pagan prototypes. The source material points to a tradition that was once incredibly widespread, centered around the dragon and sun archetype.
Dragon and sun.
Yes. And this wasn't just some scattered belief. It was essentially a universal religion. Its cult, though largely forgotten in the West now, is still preserved in places like China and other Buddhist countries today.
Still there. Wow.
Oh, yes. There, just like in antiquity, you find Bel and the dragon uniformly coupled. And priests of the Ophite, or serpent religion, often assumed the name of their god. It was a mark of reverence.
And this tradition wasn't just stuck in the East, right? It clearly made its way west. The sources trace it right back to ancient Egypt.
They do. The Ophites, the Gnostic sect that revered the serpent as a symbol of divine wisdom, they derive their rights from Hermes Trismegistus.
Hermes, right. Legendary stuff.
And this form of heliolatrous worship, sun worship with its sun gods, had already migrated into Egypt from India. So when you look at something like the divinities associated with Stonehenge, you're looking at echoes of the same deities revered in Delphi and Babylon, even the Vedic devas of ancient India. It's truly a global tapestry.
It sounds like variants on a theme then, a single universal theme.
It absolutely is. Think about the recurring motifs: Bel and the dragon, Apollo and Python, Krishna and Kalia, Osiris and Typhon. These aren't just isolated tales.
They're expressions of something shared.
A shared underlying allegory. Exactly. Even what we might see as more recent versions, like Michael and the Red Dragon or St. George and his dragon, they're just continuations of this ancient archetype.
And Michael.
Yeah.
His name means one who is like God.
That's right. He's often presented as God's terrestrial double, one of the Elohim, those powerful divine beings. And Blavatsky interprets this as meaning Michael is essentially a permutation of Jehovah himself.
Okay, so if this isn't about conventional good versus evil, what is the deeper meaning behind these ancient stories? Especially something as profound as the war in heaven.
Well, Blavatsky's work suggests that whatever cosmic or astronomical event might have inspired this allegory, its earthly application, its real core meaning for humanity, is primarily found within the ancient temples of initiation.
Ah, the initiation temples. That makes sense from a theosophical viewpoint.
It's a crucial insight for theosophists, yes. And 3 key facts from antiquity really illuminate this. First, priests universally took on the names of the gods they served. That shows a deep identification.
Okay, like the Ophites you mentioned.
Exactly. Second, the dragon wasn't a symbol of evil. Universally, it signified immortality, wisdom, secret knowledge, eternity. Big concepts.
Wisdom and eternity. That's a long way from evil.
A very long way. And thirdly, the Hierophants, the chief priests, the initiators of Egypt, Babylon, and India all proudly styled themselves sons of the dragon and serpents. This completely shifts our understanding.
That immediately changes the whole picture of what a serpent represents, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, sons of the dragon.
It really does. The source material describes these vast catacombs in Egypt and Chaldea, particularly the subterranean crypts of Thebes and Memphis. They were known as the Serpent's
The
Catacombs.
Spitz Catacombs.
Yes, and this is where the sacred mysteries of the Circle of Necessity were performed. That's a profound initiation rite about the soul's unavoidable cycle of reincarnation and spiritual evolution.
So these weren't just burial sites. They sound more like, well, schools of esoteric knowledge.
Precisely, they were centers of initiation. And this isn't just an Egyptian thing. It connects directly to figures like Wotan, the Mexican demigod.
Wotan. How so?
He recounts an expedition through a snake's hole, a subterranean passage, and was granted passage because he himself was a son of the snakes. It mirrors those ancient Egyptian crypts perfectly.
Incredible parallels.
And hierophants in both Egypt and Babylon called themselves sons of the serpent god during their mysteries. Even the Druids, the Celto-Britannic regions, they proclaimed, "I am a serpent, I am a druid."
I am a serpent.
Yes. And the Breton temple complex, Karnak, its name means serpent's mount. It's considered a twin to the Egyptian Karnak. These Dracontia, these serpent temples, they literally covered the globe. All sacred to the dragon as a symbol of the sun, which symbolized the highest god, like the Phoenician Elon or Elion.
And what's really fascinating is that these serpents or dragons were also called the builders, the architects.
That's right. The source material quotes the Welsh bard Taliesin, saying the grandeur of their monuments was such that even their pulverized remains frightened the mathematical calculations of our modern engineers.
That's quite a statement.
It is, and you see it in the Americas too. The chiefs of the Quetzalcoatl lineage in Mexico claim descent from Ham and Canaan, saying things like, "I am Hivim, of the great race of the dragon. I am a snake myself." So this wisdom wasn't just theoretical, it manifested in these profound physical creations.
So coming back to the war in heaven, what's the deepest meaning then, esoterically?
Ultimately, it points inward. It signifies the terrible inner struggles of a candidate for adeptship. The journey to enlightenment involved confronting and conquering one's own human passions, often personified through magical trials within these initiation rites.
So winning that inner battle makes you a dragon slayer?
Exactly. A dragon slayer and the son of the serpent. You are reborn, essentially, as a son of wisdom and immortality. Figures often painted as villains like Seth in Egyptian myth. Blavatsky presents as maybe a Jewish travesty of the benevolent Hermes or Thoth, or even a misunderstood Satan.
And Typhon, Apophis.
Typhon or Apophis, the dragon slain by Horus, they all relate to these arduous trials of initiation. It's not about external cosmic battles of good versus evil in the way we usually think of them.
It's incredible how consistent these themes are across cultures, even when you look at the astronomical allegories. Can you explain the myth of Rahu in India? The Daitya with the serpent's tail, how does that fit?
Certainly, Rahu is a fascinating figure. A Daitya, sort of like a titan or demon in Hindu lore, he became immortal after tricking the gods into letting him drink Amrita, the nectar of immortality. Very. When discovered, Vishnu chopped off his head, but because he'd consumed the nectar, both his head and his body, often depicted as a serpent's tail, became immortal. They were placed in the heavens as the dragon's head, which is Rahu, and the tail, Ketu.
Ah, Rahu and Ketu, the eclipse nodes in astrology.
Precisely. They cause eclipses by occasionally swallowing the sun or moon. But this fable, seemingly simple, also carries a profound mystical meaning. It played a prominent role in the initiation mysteries associated with the sun.
And the serpent itself just keeps popping up, linked to secret wisdom, like Sesha, Vishnu's serpent couch, or Python, the Greek oracle.
Absolutely. Sesha, the thousand-headed serpent Vishnu rests upon, symbolizes infinite time and the cosmic ocean. Python, the serpent oracle at Delphi, represents prophetic wisdom. The Puranas even identify Saras's children as mighty dragons, and Danaani's descendants, the Danavas or Titans, are called dragons and serpents of wisdom. It's consistent.
The cross-cultural consistency is just striking.
Yeah.
Especially with the sun gods.
It really is, particularly the more esoteric the symbol becomes. Take the Hindu pantheon. You have Agni, the fire god, who's a Danava, Indra, who leads the Devas against rebellious gods and slays the serpent demon Vrutra,
Right.
and Kartikeya, the virgin youth, born specifically to destroy the demon Taraka. There's this interesting parallel where the gods feared Taraka's yogic powers, much like the Elohim feared Adam gaining forbidden knowledge, or how archangels denounced their brethren in the Book of Enoch.
And you see that echoed in Greece with Apollo.
Directly. Apollo is Helios, the sun, the light of life. Like Kartikeya, he's a virgin youth who demands his bow at birth specifically to kill the demon dragon Python. This directly mirrors Michael fighting the apocalyptic dragon in Revelation.
It's almost the same story structure.
Almost identical in its core symbolism. Apollo is even born on Asteria, a golden star island that floats in the air, just like the Hindu Hiranyapura, the golden city of the Danavas. The identity, as Blavatsky points out, is unmistakable.
She said something like, the path to understanding the Bible goes through Hermes and Homer.
Yes. The path to understanding the Bible lies through Hermes, Bel, and Homer, just as the path to them lies through Hindu and Chaldean symbols. It suggests a universal symbolic language we've largely forgotten.
And then in the Christian pantheon, Michael fits right in.
Perfectly. Michael is presented as the angel of the sun, the leader of the celestial host, much like Indra and Kartikeya. He's commissioned to fight the red dragon, just as Kartikeya was commissioned to fight Taraka.
So Theosophy sees Kartikeya as the original.
Theosophy understands Kartikeya as clearly the original archetype for Michael and St. George, with Indra being the prototype for Kartikeya. This isn't coincidence. Blavatsky argues it's ancient wisdom manifesting across different cultures.
And the Chaldean Genesis connection. The source calls it the undeniable source for Revelation 12.
Yes, the ancient Chaldean legend from fragments translated by George Smith. It describes mankind being created perfect, then joining with the dragon of the deep, representing the spirit of chaos and offending his god. This leads to a war in heaven, ending with the triumph of good, led by the god Merodach.
Who is the prototype for Michael?
Exactly. Merodach is the clear prototype of the Archangel Michael. It shows the biblical narrative drawing directly from much older traditions.
And you mentioned this war in heaven also has a terrestrial meaning.
Yes, in its final earthly application, it can also refer to the profound struggle between the Aryan adepts of the nascent fifth race and the sorcerers of Atlantis, the demons of the deep, who are ultimately destroyed in the deluge, which connects to the Mahabharata epic as well.
So cosmic, inner, and historical layers.
Precisely. Cosmologically, all these dragons and serpents conquered by their slayers represent the turbulent principles of chaos, brought to order by the creative sun gods. But over time, these evil spirits, initially just emblems of chaos and transformation, were, well, literalized, euhemerized by popular superstition into actual beings, eventually becoming rigid dogma.
Even in supposedly civilized nations.
Even in the most civilized nations.
This brings us to a really critical point in Blavatsky's justification. The Gnostic perspective. It sounds like they got it right. They understood the true esoteric meaning.
Blavatsky argues they did. They understood the hidden nature of these symbols. The dragon, the serpent, symbols now labeled evil. It was a truth concealed by the rabbins and unknown to most Christians.
I mean, think about it. Jesus telling his apostles to be wise as the serpent.
Exactly. He would hardly do that if it were truly a symbol of the devil, would he? And the learned Egyptian Gnostics of the Brotherhood of the Serpent wouldn't have revered a living snake as an emblem of divine wisdom, Sophia.
So the serpent was always dual.
Always a dual symbol.
Yeah.
As a dragon, it was consistently a symbol of the manifested deity and its great wisdom. The source even speculates that the Dracovolans, the flying dragon, might be an exaggerated image of an extinct creature, maybe a pterodactyl.
Wow.
Which served as the prototype for the seraph of Moses and his brazen serpent in the desert.
The brazen serpent. And this is where the Gnostic view gets really provocative, right?
Yeah.
Arguing that the Jews themselves worshipped it.
Yes, initially. As a symbol of Jehovah, the chief of the fiery serpents, it was only later, after King Hezekiah's reforms, that they flipped the script. They demonized the highest god symbol of other nations, calling it a devil, and declared their own tribal deity, the one God.
So Blavatsky says Satan, the adversary. That title fits Jehovah better.
She states that the term Satan, Hebrew for adversary, actually rightfully belongs to Jehovah, describing him as the first and cruelest adversary of all the other gods, not the serpent of Genesis.
Which, in the story, speaks words of sympathy and truth.
Precisely. The dogma of original sin, based on a literal reading, seems illogical. If the Lord God created woman, and that led to the sin, well, he was the agent provocateur, as Blavatsky puts it. The serpent is just a prototype of Azazel, the scapegoat.
So, esoterically, the serpent is what? An Elohim?
One of the bright, radiant Elohim who, by promising immortality, actually spoke the truth and helped make man immortal in his incorruptible spiritual nature. The fall wasn't into sin.
It was into knowledge.
Into knowledge. Lifting the veil of ignorance, opening man's consciousness to his real divine nature. From this perspective, the serpent, or Lucifer, is a giver of immortality and an enlightener.
And the real fall, according to this view, is later. Genesis 4.
Yes, the fall into physical generation, where Jehovah Cain, the male part of the dual Adam, separates from Eve and creates Abel, the first natural woman, shedding virgin blood. It's a complex reinterpretation of the symbolism.
That connects to rabbinical teachings. about Cain and Samael.
It does. The rabbins taught that Cain was the son of Eve by Samael, identified as the devil. The Talmud equates Satan with Samael. And since the original Hebrew text identifies Cain with Jehovah,
Then Jehovah and Satan are the same entity.
it becomes clear that Jehovah and Satan are one and the same, according to this esoteric reading. This leads to the core idea. There's no devil or external evil in an absolute sense.
Evil is necessary.
A necessity in the manifested universe. It's the polar opposite of good, essential for progress and evolution, just like night is for day or death is for life. It's about polarity, not inherent evil.
Which vindicates the Gnostics, like the Satanians and Cainites.
It justifies their perspective. They correctly identified Moses' god, Ilda-Beath, an emanation of Jah Jehovah, as a proud and ambitious spirit who usurped the place of the highest god. So they called Jehovah the creator of and one with Ophiomorphos, the serpent, Satan, or evil. They saw the limitation, the demiurgic force, not the ultimate source.
This isn't just about symbols, then. Blavatsky connects it all to ancient races, the Kabiri, Atlantis.
She weaves it all together. The fallen angels are seen as prototypes of fallen men. The war in heaven repeats on earth as great historical conflicts, like the Mahabharata. Christianity, she argues, later took all these combatants, gods and demons alike, and just labeled them dragons and satans to fit the Genesis narrative.
And Noah himself. A Kabir, a demon from the Orthodox view.
That's a provocative claim she makes, yes. That Noah was a Kabir, part of that ancient mysterious group. His legend, she says, is built on the Kabirian or Titanic tradition of Samothrace. And if Noah is an Atlantean titan, then the whole biblical timeline just falls apart.
And Cain's lineage connects to the Kabiri too.
Yes, Cain, linked to Mars, god of generation and bloodshed. His descendants are identified as the Kabiri. Tubal-Cain as Vulcan, the metalworker. Jabal, agriculture. Jubal, music. These are the patrons of early civilization linked to the fallen line.
And the Telchines, the ironworkers of Rhodes.
Another parallel. They were famed for magic arts, making statues of the gods, and like the Cainites, destroyed by a deluge. Blavatsky states they are simply the Kabiri and Titans in another form. They are the Atlanteans. It reinforces this deep interconnectedness of ancient figures and races.
So the Kabiri, the mighty ones, they're identified with the Dain Chohans.
She identifies them with the primeval Dain Chohans, the highest celestial beings in theosophy. They were the rulers and instructors of the early races, the gods and kings of the divine dynasties. It links these mythological figures back to the very spiritual hierarchy guiding evolution.
Okay, let's shift to the esoteric chronology in these lost continents. Persian legend.
Yes, ancient Persian legends speak of two races before Adam. The Devs, Atlantean giants, strong and wicked, reigning for 7,000 years. And the Paris, smaller, wiser, kinder, maybe early Aryans, reigning for 2,000 years.
Devs in Paris.
Right. Jan ben Jan, king of the Paris, reigned before Iblis, the devil, an agent of karma really, helped defeat the Devs. These legends mention 10 kings in their last dynasty, mirroring Berossus's 10 antediluvian kings, and Chimeroth is seen as identical to the Hebrew Adam.
And this connects to Plato's 9,000 years.
There's a strange correspondence, yes. Plato, speaking as an initiate, mentions 9,000 years since the war between Atlanteans and ancient Greeks. But Blavatsky reveals the secret of initiatic chronology.
It's not literal years.
Not always. Just like Hebrews used a week of years, meaning 2,520 years, initiates of Plato's time used a millennium, not for 1,000 years, but for 100,000 years.
So Plato's 9,000 is really...
900,000 years, a vast time frame.
Wow, that completely changes the scale of ancient history. So this 900,000-year period covers the conflict between Aryans and Atlanteans.
Exactly. The long conflict between the Aryan race and the descendants of the first giant races of Atlantis. It began with the gradual sinking of the great Atlantean continent, back in the Pliocene epoch, and lasted almost until the close of the Last Age, culminating in the Mahabharatian War.
And that's different from the 9,000 years the Egyptian priests told Solon.
Entirely different. That referred to a later event, the sinking of Plato's smaller island of Atlantis, Poseidonis. Two distinct events, often confused.
And the Persian traditions also mention Fortunate Islands near the Arctic.
Yes. Beyond the mountains of Kaf, the Caucasus, lies a dark glacial region with these fortunate islands and the Fountain of Life. Legend says a portion of the very first dry island, the first continent, detached itself and remains there, somewhere across the Arctic Ocean between Nova Zembla and Spitsbergen.
A hidden sacred land at the pole.
The primordial land. And then there's the Simorgh Anki, the Persian phoenix.
The giant
A marvelous bird, yes. A symbol of the manmanteric cycle, the vast periods of cosmic manifestation and dissolution. It complains of immense age, having witnessed 12 cycles of 7,000 years each.
Which esoterically is
840,000 years. It represents the cycle itself, and it promises that before it dies, it will reveal the hidden continent and build a bridge to it. This relates, Blavatsky says, to the coming seventh race of humanity.
this idea of a hidden land, a source land.
Yeah.
It seems universal.
It really does.
Right.
Even the 6th century traveler Cosmas Indicoplastices was told by a Chaldean in India that man was first created on a continent beyond the ocean, and Noah's Ark carried him to our current lands. It confirms this universal tradition.
So finally, how does the Secret Doctrine describe the actual formation of these continents, Earth as a living body?
Yes, the commentaries use that analogy. The first beginnings of human life happened when the only dry land was an unbroken crust capping the North Pole, the head of the Earth.
The polar continent.
Right, the land of no latitude Naraksha that remains beyond the eternal ice.
And the second continent.
During the first and second races, a new land emerged, joined to the first one. It formed a horseshoe shape from the polar head, including Greenland, stretching southwest, and Kamchatka, joined by northern Siberia. This was called the headgear. It later broke apart.
And the third continent was Lemuria.
Lemuria, yes. Formed in the early third race, described poetically as the waist and navel of the earth, with the Himalayas as its great belt. After Lemuria was largely destroyed, Atlantis appeared.
And eventually that polar land became hidden.
Exactly. As the great ages passed and climate shifted, the northern waters froze, concealing the eternal land from humanity. The source describes it vividly. The eternal land was now hid, for the waters became solid, frozen under the breath of her nostrils and the evil winds from the dragon's mouth. It completes the cycle described in the Secret Doctrine. So if we connect all this back to the bigger picture, you can really see how Blavatsky's Secret Doctrine provides this kind of master key. It unlocks centuries of what she saw as distorted truths. It offers this profound, interconnected view, mythology, history, human evolution, challenging those mainstream interpretations of good and evil. It reveals this universal, esoteric wisdom behind symbols like the dragon and serpent. It's really a complete philosophical framework for understanding our spiritual heritage.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? The truth seeker, the fellow theosophist, exploring these ideas?
Well, it means the stories we tell ourselves, the myths we live by, they hold far more profound truths than we often realize. Understanding these deeper layers, it provides not just knowledge, but potentially that aha moment, doesn't it? Something that can profoundly shift your perspective on reality and yourself, connecting you to this ancient lineage of wisdom.
Absolutely. It reframes everything.
So consider this as we wrap up. If the fall was truly into knowledge and the serpent was actually a giver of immortality and enlightener, what forgotten wisdom might still lie hidden within the very myths we've been taught to fear?
A powerful question to ponder. It is. We invite you to continue your own deep dive into these concepts. Perhaps pick up the Secret Doctrine itself and uncover more of this hidden wisdom within yourself.